The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with my boys, Jake, Jeff, and Kevin. We're here to break down this week's games, especially from this weekend. We had K-Day. Jake had a time out there in the bleachers on Kerry Wood's 25th anniversary of his 20 strikeout game. We'll get into that, as well as we'll talk a little bit about Wisdom's struggles as of late. We'll celebrate the recent call-ups of Amaya, Mervis, and today Morel. And then we'll talk a little Cubs Cardinals as we get into it. But before we get started, we want to remind you that we are live on YouTube every Monday at 8:30. So make sure you're checking out that on the On Tap Sports Network YouTube channel. And you can find us wherever you subscribe to podcasts. So Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you're listening to podcasts, make sure you are checking us out and hitting that subscribe button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs. That's where we want to interact with you, Cubs fans and our listeners, to be able to just join the conversation and build a community of Cubs fans that go through the season together, the ups and downs, like we're experiencing this year. So, yeah, let's get into it, guys. K-Day, man. I want to start out with that because that's a fun, it's kind of personal to our podcast because we have Jake, who his dad was the OG of the K sign. The guy, with especially for Kerry Wood's day of the 20 strikeouts out there. So Jake, tell us what your day was like. I know you got a sweet autograph. You were on the broadcast and just give us some background for our listeners of who your dad is and everything as we get into the story.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things, my dad used to call into ESPN and The Score, and his call-in name was Special K. So at the off chance anybody who is listening to Cubs radio in the early 2000s remembers a very boisterous, emphatic Special K calling.
I would love to go back and pull radio clip.
Dude, me too. Cause my dad was very, very passionate. I think we've talked about on here, like he was kind of, if Twitter existed back then, he would have been Dom Tom, the director of Morel, Tom, before Dom Frederick. And it was genuine, obviously. Yeah, it was. So the day itself was great. I want to give a quick shout out if he's listening. My best friend, Mike Conway, his birthday is K-Day. So he's a huge fan. And I love that he loves to celebrate K. He was really close with my dad too. So I'm actually Mike has the same hat that I'm wearing right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing this in honor of Mike. I think it's become his favorite Cubs hat. So we share a lot of Cubs stuff. But yeah, great hat. But yeah, so we were there for Mike's birthday and for K-Day. So we started early. We got on the train, Northwest Metro line, pounding some. Well, we won't say the name because we're a Toppling Goliath pod, but we'll say that it is the official craft beer of not Toppling Goliath. I wish, but the beer that we were drinking at least last season was the official craft beer of the Chicago Cubs. And then when we got downtown, we went to Bernie's, met my sister and brother-in-law there as well. We had a good little crew there. Met Matt Erickson, who was the 4th K holder on the 20 strikeout day. We were both in the 20 documentary, but I had actually never met Matt in person. So it was great to chat with him, get some stories about my dad. And then I met up with Crawley of Crawley's Cubs Kingdom. I think that's still what his handle is. And then he does the Fly the W podcast. And we talked about doing some crossover there too. Him coming on here, me going on there. You probably, if you're listening to this, you probably know Crawley on Twitter. So Crawley, he was texting me that morning and he was like, hey, come, like, let me know when you're downtown. I've got something for you. And I was like, it's my buddy's birthday. Like I got some. Well, I met him outside the gate at Gallagher Way, and he surprised me. If you saw on Twitter already, he got me an autographed reproduction of Pat Hughes' 20K game scorecard, signed by Kerry and Pat. An awesome gesture. So thanks again. Thanks again, Crawley. So to get it framed, and that'll go up on the wall somewhere behind me where I can find space. And then he told me too, he was like, hey, so I'm not friends, but like contacts with Taylor McGregor. And he said, I let her know that you guys were going to be out here today, and I gave her your number. So be on the lookout, to hear from her. And so I think T-Mac came into the bleachers probably sometime around the 5th inning. And it was really cool to see how the interviews how she gets them set up before actually going live. So she kind of asked me some questions, and then it was cool. Like you could see that she was talking to the producers because she talked really, really close to the mic and really, really quiet. And then when she was on air, she'd pull the mic away and talk in like the voice that we're used to Taylor McGregor talking in. So being on that side of things was really cool. Mitch asked before the podcast, why weren't you live? Like, why wasn't she talking to you live on the broadcast? And let's be honest, folks, I told you we started drinking on the Metro at 9:00 in the morning. So
you cracked a few.
I think I was handling myself pretty well, but probably for the best still that I wasn't on the broadcast live. We're just honored. Like, hey, I'll kind of wrap it at this. I'm just honored that people still take interest in the K signs. The thing that it really is about to me now that was really fun. There were 2 kids that we ended up sitting next to in the same row. They were 12 years old in town from Colorado. And they got to hold, or I asked them if they wanted to, and they got to hold the first 2 Ks of the day. And their dad was so they were friends, and the dad of one of the kids, huge Cubs fan. Son's name is Ryan. And the other kid was a Red Sox fan. So I sent them K shirts today, just because I had a great time talking baseball with them. I love seeing kids that were really into the game and play themselves. So he got a red K shirt, and then Ryan got a blue K shirt. It's awesome. And then on top of that, the Cubs pulled off the comeback win against AJ Puck, who's been one of the best relievers in baseball this season. So it was a great atmosphere, great to be with friends and family that day. Having the K's out there. I talked to my buddies, Mike and Spencer, who are the co-season ticket holders with me. We talked about printing off more signs so that Mike and Spencer can take sets out when they go out. So I've alluded to it in the past, but the K's will be out more frequently. It just is a lot, to haul them around is a lot. And it makes it easier when you've got a big crew with you that you can kind of coordinate so people can like look after the signs for you. So it's not just you and whoever you're with, the 2 people. I don't know. I'm rambling, obviously. Here I am taking up the first 6 minutes of the podcast roughly. But thanks for asking, guys. I mean, that's why I'm here. The K signs are I'm kind of Nepo baby is a popular term right now. I don't know if that means anything to any of you guys.
No,
it's just laughing.
I was born in 1979.
Yeah,
I'm not hip with the lingo.
It's kids feeding off the stardom that was left over from their parents, basically. And I don't know. I hope I've made a name for myself outside of it, but I'm not shy to share the K stuff because it means a lot to me, and it's just cool to see that it still means a lot to a lot of other Cubs fans as well.
Yeah, and I mean it's a way for you to honor your dad. Like,
yes,
your dad did something. Your dad did something awesome, and that's a way for you to like connect and still keep his spirit alive. And like it's awesome. Like, yeah, the K shirts, the K signs, they should be recurring thing at Wrigley Field. And the story of your dad should be told a whole bunch. Like just seeing on the comments, like I know you post it, and I was in the comments of people like, your dad was my PE teacher, like he was amazing, like he was my freshman baseball coach, and like he made a huge impact on my life. Like that's what you like, even more than being the K guy. He's gonna be more remembered for the impact he made as a person. And so like he needs to be talked about. Like it's a good thing. Like I want hopefully someday kids say that about me as a teacher 20 years down the road that made an impact. So like it should be brought up. It should be talked about. And it has huge connection to the Cubs. So it's awesome. But yeah, this weekend we got to celebrate, especially Saturday, you guys out there. And yeah, Amaya comes huge with a great, his first hit off AJ Puck. Mervis got him on Saturday, not so much on Sunday. Let's start out talking about those two, because those two were the call-ups that we recently had. We'll start out with that. What are your initial reactions to their first couple games? We'll start with Amaya, and then we'll jump to Mervis. So let's start with Amaya. Jeff, what were your initial kind of takes on Amaya? His debut. He debuted against the Nationals. We did not play a good series versus the Nationals, but we had a good turnaround of winning 2 out of 3 versus the Marlins, who swept us the weekend before. So initial thoughts on Amaya as a catcher with Gomes going down.
I think he did a pretty good job behind the dish, catching some pretty good games. He made really hard contact. He didn't strike out a lot. He put the ball in play, but he just hit him where people were standing. It was good to see him get his first hit, give him a little confidence boost, a little shot in the arm while he's up here. I have no idea if he's going to hang around for a little while after Gomes comes off that concussion list, but there's promise. There's a lot of things what am I trying to say? There's a lot of upside to what he can become as a defensive catcher. So.
Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Jeff. It was not sad. It was interesting seeing that he was just smoking the ball. Every ball that he hit, it was bouncing off his bat, loud crack right to somebody, unfortunately. That first hit was great to see. Immediately they showed his family in the stands going nuts and everything, which was awesome. I wondered about his catching, and then I read the little bit of clips from Wesneski talking about him after yesterday. Man, yeah, my days are all sorts of messed up. Yesterday, and talking about how Wesneski was a little worried, so he's doing some extra prep, and then he got out there on the field and realized he was still less prepared than Amaya, who was ready to go behind the dish. And it just sounds like he has all those soft skills that the front office was putting an emphasis on over this offseason. And then with that, he's got the bat to back it up. And, Scott brings up in the comments here, Amaya can replace Barnhart when Gomes comes back. I would love to say, yeah, that's definitely going to be the game plan. But I think, catchers kind of get hurt every so often, and there's not a whole lot behind him that you want. I have a feeling he'll end up at AAA, and we'll all kind of go, dang it. And then, maybe he comes up later in the season. Who knows?
I bet by the end of the season, he will almost replace catching duties especially with expanded roster, he'll come up. That's going to be the discussion when Gomes does come back, because Barnhart's batting 186, WRC plus of 23, a slug of 209. It's not good. Yesterday in the extra innings when they took Amaya out and pinch ran, I understood it, but I was like, if we don't score here and we have Barnhart come up, I had no confidence in the last inning when Barnhart was the final out. I just didn't have the whole time I had confidence. We're going to come back. We're going to score. Until that at bat, I was like, I just don't believe in Barnhart. And then of course tonight he smokes one down the line. That's fair. And he gets robbed.
Right.
The first hard hit ball he's hit all year, and it gets robbed. But yeah, that's going to be
robbed because it's called foul. Let's be
that
was something too. I tweeted about someone said the Hawkeye, and I knew this, but the Hawkeye technology is in every Major League Baseball stadium, and that's what they use for the tennis line calling. That's one of the things that needs to be in Major League Baseball. And it should be even as simple as going up to the line and seeing if the chalk is missing.
Right.
Why was that not part of the review?
Right.
Just walk over there, look at the line.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
and if you've watched a tennis match, when they review those, it's fast. I mean, it's
Yes.
like 5-10 seconds, and they're back.
it's
playing.
cool technology, and they've had the technology for like forever. It feels like
Right.
They've had it for so long. So
Come on,
it's
gotta figure it out.
It's time for that in baseball. That and something to figure out check swings. That's all
Yeah.
Yes. Make check swings more uniform. I think typically they're called really well. Like I'll see it straight on and be like, oh no, that's for sure a swing, or no, that's for sure checked. And the ump got it right behind the plate almost every time.
Mhm.
But
Can we do something with some
things?
balk rules while we're at it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Too soon,
oh
Jeffrey.
My God. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was really brutal. That was really brutal.
Jake, what about you with Amaya? Are you what do you like behind the plate? What do you like in the offense?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty clear that he's ready to game call. He's looked phenomenal defensively. I don't think they've tested his arm yet. I can't remember if anybody's run on him. Yeah, I don't think anybody's run on him yet. But he's blocked a ton of pitches in the dirt. They pointed out, I think it was yesterday, Leiter was pitching and he threw a cutter that bounced like a couple feet in front of the plate. And Amaya, that's exaggerating, but Amaya blocked it. And it went to like a 2-2 count maybe. And Amaya had the confidence to call it again. And it led to a strikeout. And Boog pointed that out on the broadcast. Left hamstring tightness.
Yeah, I just saw that for Nico. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But as far as Amaya, I think offensively, like the thing. So I'm super, super happy for the guy. Like he looks, you can just like see it. Like even though I feel like he looks like he totally belongs, like he hasn't missed
in Little League.
He has a young
It's crazy. It's crazy young how young he looks.
His face, yes, he does have a baby face. But in terms of how he's playing the game, he's proving that he belongs at the MLB level, and he's showing that he does have this prospect pedigree that all the prospect evaluators thought he had when he was first in the Cubs system. I mean, he was the number one prospect at one point, and it's now we're seeing the reality there. Ian Mahan, our buddy, says, I have already cut my hamstring out, put it on ice, and I'm on the next flight, boys. Don't worry. So Nico is saved thanks to a good friend of the pod, Ian.
That's awesome.
The one thing with Amaya, so Scott also in the comments shouts out to repping the K-shirt. Thank you, Scott. And then he said Amaya can replace Barnhart when Gomes comes back. I know you guys already touched on that a little bit, but Barnhart signed to a 2-year contract. The only way that he's, because of the lack of catching depth right now, the only way that he's off the roster is in some kind of trade. And that would take the Cubs being out of contention and moving Barnhart to a contender that needed, or Gomes for that matter, to a contender that needed a catcher. Amaya is going to go back to AAA, and that's okay because his offense still needs a little bit of refining. Yes, he's hit the crap out of the ball, and he's had really bad BABIP luck, but he was striking out at a little bit of a higher clip before getting called up. And the guy's only played, I think the stat was like 90-some games in the last 4 years. So give him some time to progress. He's still only 24. We're seeing how he's played in this taste in the big leagues, that he can handle it. And we've got something to look forward to as long as, knock on wood, he stays healthy.
Yeah. I mean, I loved his energy, like after the game on Saturday, him singing "Go Cubs Go." Like,
that was
and you have to think, like, he's been in the Cubs system. He's been projected to be he was projected a couple of years ago to probably already be up with the Cubs by now. And so he was already probably picturing, I'm going to be singing this song a year ago. And now he finally gets to do it. And like, yeah, it's that vibe. It's that energy that Wrigley Field puts out. Like that I'm excited. I'm excited for what the Cubs have as we watch our former catcher, who's now a DH, play tonight against us. Like, it has to make us feel like, okay, yes, the Cubs front office are making the right decisions here of letting Contreras go, because he was hurting the Cubs pitching staff. Like, Jeff, what was the stats that you said Marquis was showing out this year about Contreras catching the Cardinals?
Before the game, they put up the splits on Contreras and was it Kinsler?
Yeah.
Anyway, when Contreras catches, the Cardinals pitching staff's ERA is north of 5, and when he doesn't, it's right around 3. And the last 11 games that he caught have all been Cardinals losses. So I'm in favor of sticking him back there.
Let him catch every day,
especially this series.
Yeah, catch every day. It'll be great.
But it shows that the Cubs knew what they were doing of going a little bit defensive catcher first with Gomes. But you know that you have Amaya who does have a decent bat. He has some pop in that bat. He's a way better defensive version of Contreras. Like he's going to put up, I think probably by the end of his career, if he stays healthy, the same offensive numbers as a Contreras, but with way better defensive skills. And I am super jacked for that. Like I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, nine batted balls, 1 barrel, which is good. Average exit velocity, 91.2, which is above league average by 3 miles an hour, 55% hard hit contact, and an expected batting average of 448. So he and he's batting 286, and that was before his last at bat. But yeah, Amaya's good. Like I think that I think he is a prospect that Cubs fans can dream on. And Mitch, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that he could put up Contreras type numbers. Maybe not quite as good as Contreras at his peak offensive production, but knowing that he's going to be able to handle the pitching staff better, it more than evens out.
Yep. Let's turn our attention to Mervis. That's the one that a lot of people were super amped about and looking forward to all season long of getting Mervis in pinstripes in Chicago, and we finally got it. What are your initial thoughts on Mervis, Jeff? Yeah, you like what you've seen so far?
Yeah. There's a lot of potential there. And I say potential because he's been better defensively at first base. He's picked a lot of balls. Although, he did pick up his first hit Friday in the late inning, which also got his first RBI, which, everybody's been screaming for him to get up. But you got to be patient. He's still a young player. He's still got a lot to learn. He's going to have to make adjustments. Just calm down. All right.
And you saw Friday did he get his first hit Friday?
Yeah, it's Friday.
Mm-hmm. Bottom and then Saturday he had a big RBI. Mm-hmm. And that was against Puck. Mm-hmm. The next day
lefty, yeah.
Yeah, it was a great at bat. But then the next day, facing Puck, 9th inning, you have winning run out there. And he's looking slider, and Puck throws a 2-0 fastball right down Broadway, and he lets it go. Mm-hmm. And then he gets him 3-2. And again, Mervis is looking for that slider they slapped to right field and got a hit the day before. And Puck, you could just see like that at bat. Yeah. He was a little bit overmatched because he was getting in his head and just thinking rather than just letting it go and just letting it eat. And so that's going to come with experience. It's going to come a little bit with just getting more time under his belt. But he faced some really good pitching this weekend. From the Marlins. And so you got to be feeling pretty good that, we didn't see a mash Mervis home run this first stand that he was at Wrigley Field, but that's going to come. What he needs is just get comfortable out there and get a team around him that's going to win some ball games, and those home runs will start flying.
Yeah. For perspective, a year ago, he was in high A ball. So across 3 levels of minor league ball last year, he hit 36 home runs and he had a 984 OPS. So for him,
is that good?
That seems good. I think that's pretty good.
Look at you using numbers, Jeffrey.
Right.
Yeah, Jeff, I love this.
Yes. Great.
I'm rubbing off on him.
Just a little bit.
Putting the nerd glasses on, and he is
Jeff knows the
numbers.
Yeses, you guys.
That's right. So no, it's just pretty remarkable that he could pick up kind of where he left off, down at Iowa, and then to come up.
Yeah.
yeah, let's just calm down and wait for that first home run, because I think after he gets that first one, I think they're going to come in bunches.
It's going to come tonight.
Nice.
Game
I like
winner.
that.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so.
I was trying to, like, the whole game, extra innings, call that. I was like, either Amaya or Mervis is going to win this game for us. And I was like, please let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know there's probably a lot of Cubs fans that aren't really impressed with the way he did at the plate this weekend. And it's probably not the hot start offensively that they wanted, but just relax.
He went through a meat grinder to get called up and have to play. What did he say? Face like 2 reverse split lefties. Or,
yes.
Yeah. And like, it's like, oh gosh, this guy, he's gonna have no, or reverse split righties, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a left-handed batter. But like, just to have to go through that meat grinder and like, hey, welcome to the big leagues. Make some adjustments on your first at bat. Good luck.
I think it took Chris Bryant 2 games to get his first hit. So let's calm down.
Yeah.
He got two hits against Sandy Alcantara in the game where Alcantara was going for a shutout.
Yes.
And his third at bat, both of them exit velocities over 100 miles an hour. And then the third one, he flew out to like shallow center on a 98 mile an hour fastball against Alcantara. So he's going to be good. I mean, like, I think he's going to be good. The thing, I think I had a healthy amount of skepticism to start the season because as Hap chases a high fastball from Jordan Hicks, which is exactly what he's supposed to avoid. It's like that's happen wisdom, avoid the high fastballs, and he bites on a 101 at the eyeballs. Sorry, we love him. We love Ian Happ. But no, I think, and they talked about on the broadcast too, as we've already discussed here, the pitching that he's faced has been, the Marlins have a great pitching staff starting, and their bullpen is solid too. I think the biggest thing when I talk about the healthy amount of skepticism, like I wanted to see him prove it at Iowa that last year wasn't a fluke, because there have been a lot of prospects in the past with a better pedigree than Mervis who've had one stellar season and then just never became anything or took a few years to become something at the major league level. So that's worth noting too. Like, as good as Mervis has been in the minor leagues, like we've seen a lot of rookie hitters and pitchers for that matter get called up to the major leagues and just not be able to put it together in their first season. It's actually becoming exceedingly rare to have a Julio Rodriguez or Corbin Carroll for the Diamondbacks this year. Like so that was the other reason too why when fans were clamoring for Mervis, I was like, guys, yes, he is tearing the cover off the ball. Yes, Dale is not hitting well in Chicago, and his defense has been kind of now living up to what the Padres fans warned us about, though not as bad, I don't think. But the whole thing was like, you don't know what you're going to get from Mervis. You don't know what you're going to get from any rookie hitter being called up, and it's better to assume the worst. It's better to assume a worse outcome than a better outcome than to think that you're just going to, his like whatever 130 something WRC plus is just going to immediately translate. It's not. Like, more than 9 times out of 10, it's not. Right. But I like the approach that he's shown. I like the contact that he's made. I like the defense, like Jeff mentioned. I like the defense that he's played. He bailed out a couple. There was a Madrigal play and a Swanson play specifically that I remember. And I love that he was at Bernie's with his family after the game on Saturday. He walked right behind us, and I think I just like kind of raised my beer and said, "Hey, cheers, Maddie," something like that. Because I wasn't like, I wasn't clamoring over him, and it was cool that like people weren't really I don't know if everybody knew who he was yet. But he was able to walk all the way to the back without, being held up in the crowd, and keep that up, Cubs fans. Like be respectful of these guys. I think we can assume the best from Cubs fans there, but don't swarm these players. If we get lucky enough to see more guys out at Bernie's, just let them do their thing. But yeah, I'm on the Merv train.
And what I love about, you bring up Dale, aka Eric Hosmer. If you're listening to the pod, Jeffrey didn't know that his name was Eric and thought it was Dale, and so we will continue to
He
call.
looks like a Dale.
He looks like a Dale. We will call Eric Hosmer Dale.
I kind of forgot.
But what I like most about this, and you saw it in Sunday's game, and this is what Eric Hosmer needs to be for the Cubs: a veteran bat off the bench that can put a good at bat together, like he did in the 9th inning, to drive in the game time run. Like that's what you want. You want veteran leadership. You want him in the clubhouse, then that's what you're going to get. That's what he needs to be the rest of the year. Put him in a pinch hit matchup that favors him and allow him to put the ball in play. And with the new shift, it might help him a little bit to be able to get some balls through there like it did on Sunday and us tie up the game. Like that's what we're going to need out of Hosmer, and be that good clubhouse guy. So, and who knows, maybe like Eric Hosmer finds himself as that pinch hit guy and we find good mashups and he starts mashing the ball. We don't know, but I like him accepting the role and hearing that he's accepted that and knows that that's the best for the team and knows he can kind of move that mentor role. And that's where I think it's key to have a guy like David Ross as our manager, because he's done that and he knows how valuable it is to have a veteran, to be a veteran and pass on your knowledge down, because he did that. And so I think those conversations were happening and he got Dale bought into that idea. And so hopefully the Cubs keep using him in the right situations the rest of the way. Cause I think, Mervis needs to be at first base, pencil him in every day. If he fails, he fails, but we'll soon, like Frank Schwindel, we'll find out who he is. But until then, let's ride it and see what we got, like that's where I'm at.
Totally agree. Totally.
Wait a minute. So like the mentorship thing aside, are you okay with the roster move of sending Nelly down instead of releasing Hosmer?
In the perfect situation, no. But at this point, I think even if we didn't, Nelson Velasquez should be playing every day somewhere. And he's not really taking a roster spot in the outfield away from Velasquez. He would only be taking DH and pinch hit roles away from Velasquez. And so it's kind of like why we wanted Morel to maybe stay down until he could come up here and get playing time, or with Mervis. And so that's where I'm okay with it, because yes, he does have options. So let's put him down there, let him play all day. And if he's doing what Morel did down there, then eventually he's going to push the envelope and make the Cubs make a tough decision. And that's where Hosmer might be exiting stage right. So
I think it's a great, that's that last bit for sure. I think is, I especially like that. Yeah. Make him force the issue at Iowa. And that I was I didn't really know how I felt about it. I was like, I mean, obviously he's got the option to be sent down. I agree with what you're saying too, Mitch. Like there have been times where Hosmer's come up in the clutch this season. I don't know. I don't have like his high leverage batting average or OPS or anything open right now, but I feel like I have been more surprised by Hosmer this season than I have been pissed off about the outcome of one of his at-bats.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything that's
like pretty even.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything that's like, I'm striking out in a big situation, or like he hasn't made me angry. It's just he is who he is, and he's kind of been that. He's been okay at first.
I guess a little lower expectations for him helps with that too.
But like speaking of Morel, we brought Morel up today. With Nico going down, he might be in the lineup a lot more. So he might be playing some second, maybe Madrigal playing some third. That's before Nico going down. That's what I was going to talk about, is where do we find playing time now that Morel's up, but there might be a spot open. I know Morel played a lot of third base down at Iowa. Could we see his versatility and his athleticism slide into second, and then Madrigal stays what he is and plays once every 4 days at third and gets that spot start and maybe pinch running role, and Morel just move over to second in the time it takes to Nico to get back. What do you kind of see with Morel's role going forward, Kevin? Where do you see him kind of fitting in?
Well, it's kind of interesting with Horner going down today, because before that, I think I'd seen Tommy Birch, right? Yep. Posted something on Twitter about how for like the last week and a half, Morel had only been playing center field. So it's kind of interesting. Like he'd actually just been specializing in the outfield. So then the idea was, would Belly, Hap, or Saya be DHing a little bit and kind of rotating through that way? But with this potential, hopefully not an injury, but potentially something like that, I would love to see him get a lot of starts at third base, especially with Wisdom kind of struggling a little bit, and Madrigal slides in at second, and then we get to see the Morel of this season. We get to give him that run and see him go without sacrificing defense, and perhaps that gives Wisdom time to focus on DH, maybe a day or two off to just get his mind right. I did see they did a promotional during the game today that he went and visited a school. Wisdom went and visited a school today, part of teacher appreciation. I don't know. I kind of always imagine when they do stuff like that, they turn around, they tend to have a pretty decent like little bounce back. But hoping something like that happens. But I love the Morel call up. I love Morel as a player. It was funny. They showed him like bear hugging Contreras before the start of the game. We know that they're friends and everything like that. Yeah. But
I wish he was choking him out.
I mean, as
Ian pointed out in the comments that Contreras is responsible at this point, one out in the top of the eighth for both of the Cardinals.
Right.
And he comes up in a run RBI opportunity with runners on first and third and one out. So I hope Fulmer makes him.
That sounds like a good time for a punchy.
How about we just hit him in the hip and put him on first?
But I love the Morel call up. I'm ready to see him with the big club. I'm a little selfish in that too, because my son Keaton loves Morel, and I always remind him to take Morel breaths because he can get very intense in the batter's box. And if I shout that, just to take a Morel breath, he'll take a step out and breathe right on his bat and prep.
But the pitch clock, you got to stay in the batter's box.
Well, I mean, he can get him
prepared for Major League Baseball.
God damn it.
My one thing was that I saw kind of today was, okay, Morel gets called up and people are complaining that he's not in the lineup day one. And it's like, okay, you have no idea what travel was like, him getting here. So day one, I don't expect them to be right in the lineup like day one sometimes. Like, call him up, let him get comfortable after travel, and then let him get a day. And I guarantee you he's probably going to be in the lineup tomorrow. But yeah, Contreras just
put another run on the board.
So that should have been an error. Wisdom forgot how many outs there were, and he looked home instead of turning the double play.
Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, that was. It should have been out of the inning. And
yep. And with Contreras running, that would have been an easy double play.
For sure. Yeah.
It's tough.
This is live reaction.
Live reaction. Well, anyway,
live reactions the next morning when you guys are listening to this.
Well, anyway, we can move on to Patrick Wisdom, because he was going to be a topic that I wanted to talk about tonight. Defense up until that play has been pretty good this year. Offense started out super hot. I think 2 episodes ago, I was raving about Patrick Wisdom and him just mashing the ball. I think he's still second in the league in home runs. Lately, though, we've seen quite a bit of a drop off. Since April 20th, his slash line is 167, 286, and 375. With a WRC plus of 83. His power numbers are still there. He has hit 3 home runs in that time. But I mean, when we look at Madrigal, he isn't doing much better since April 20th. He's a 194 average, 258 slug. he's brought no power to the offense. WRC plus of 28. So both of them have been kind of struggling at the plate. What do we do? Like, Wisdom kind of goes through these stretches where he gets hot for a really long time.
Very streaky, yeah.
And then struggles and can't find himself at the plate. And so, like, do we ride with Wisdom? Do we now we have Morel up there? Do we move him to third, and put somebody else at second? What do we do now that Nico is out too? That might change some things, but yeah, I'm struggling with how this roster shakes out and where we find guys playing times. And people are going to go through stretches where they're going to go through slumps. It's baseball. Wisdom has kind of proven now that he can hit, and who knows? Tomorrow you might have 2 home runs and get back on track. But that's with Wisdom. It's so hot and cold, and he does provide. The tough thing is our offense needs power, and he's one of the guys in the lineup that can provide some slug and provide some power. So it'd be ridiculous to say that you're going to take out the team leader in home runs and RBIs and put in Nick Madrigal, who's batting 194 for that. So tough to justify, but hopefully we can see some evening out of Patrick Wisdom. What have you guys kind of noticed with Wisdom at the plate?
I was feeling pretty down, at least recent. Like I feel like he's hopefully exiting one of his troughs tonight. Scott says in the comments, Wisdom is 1 for 1 with 2 walks tonight.
Yep,
and that's exactly it. Yeah, his one hit was a scorched line drive up the middle. Like that's what you want to see. Growing up, we've heard Bellinger say line drive back up the middle you're told that's the perfect piece of hitting. So I have his rolling strikeout rate over this cumulative strikeout rate. Never mind, scratch that. But I feel like he's been striking out a little bit more. Still making hard contact. I mean, the expected stats still look good for him. And I'd say overall, like he's playing better than he has offensively the last couple seasons. And that's saying something because he has had some good offensive performances. I think the big thing is just seeing if we can see a little bit more consistency. And it's only May 8th. So there's still a lot of baseball season left here for him to prove that he can be. He's batting 236 right now. If I could see him at with a 924 OPS, which is awesome. So if I could see him at 245 because he's able to cut down the strikeout rate a little bit, if he could get the strikeout rate at 30 or a little bit below 30, I'd feel really, really good about Patrick Wisdom as my third baseman.
Yep. And he's top 10 in barrel percentage in all of baseball. And right there with Randy Rosarina, Aaron Judge, Max Muncy, he's right there with some boppers. He's barreling up balls. And
I really and I don't mean to interrupt, but I really quick want to highlight Scott's comment before he says Wisdom needs to be in the 5 or 6 spot. Batting 8th behind Mancini and Hosmer is the worst position in the lineup. Yes, it's not a great position, but if you don't have Wisdom down there, so if you put Wisdom, he's in the 8th spot right now. Mancini and Mervis are ahead of him. I guess if you swap Wisdom and Mancini and put Wisdom in the 6th spot and Mancini in the 8th, then with Mervis now in the 7th, that kind of makes it so the bottom of the order isn't easy for pitchers to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that right now, with the offense playing as it is, Wisdom provides protection potentially for Mervis in the lineup because you've got that big bat. So you say okay, you've got a guy on deck behind Mervis.
I think that's exactly why he's 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Mervis has to be, you have to pitch to Mervis. And that's good for obviously for Mervis's development. So yeah, like in an ideal, actually, I mean, look, I'm going to make Ian mad, but we've got to make one of these quips every show. In an ideal world, Wisdom would be on the bench for this team. He would not be the starting third baseman. But it's not an ideal world. So I think him in the A spot right now makes sense. And he can run the bases. So if you've got Gomes batting ninth, or however it shakes out, if you've got Amaya batting ninth and Amaya's putting the ball in play, and you've got Wisdom on base, he's not clogging up the base path. So I actually think that Wisdom where he is makes sense, especially with Mervis's ability to get on base at a high clip.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. I think he's there for a reason. I think he's there right now to protect, because you did see him earlier in the season when he was hot. He was up in like 4-5. He was up in the 4-5 where Scott wanted him. But now that you have Mervis, you have to, especially like I wouldn't put Mervis up there right now. I would want him down in 7 and kind of people around him to protect him. And right now, like Wisdom's the best guy right there for it. Like, so I like it right now. Just hopefully he gets back in his hot stretch. And then I think when he gets hot, then Mervis will get hot.
Yep.
The only problem is then you're putting pressure on then Wisdom, because then there's nobody really behind him to protect Wisdom. Like Cole Wright said when he was on our podcast that he's expecting Wisdom to have a big year because he has people around him. He has a Bellinger, he has a Happ, he has Swanson. But if you have him down the bottom and you have Tucker Barnhart behind him, yeah, then we don't necessarily have to pitch to Wisdom too much because we can work around him and get Barnhart out because he's almost like a guaranteed out at this point. He's worse batting average than when we had pitchers hit. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit better if we have a Jan Gomes or if we had a Maya batting behind him. You might see Wisdom hitting a little bit better. So, yeah. But yeah, what are your? I want your reactions before the game. Before we've had Contreras now be part of all 3 runs that the Cardinals have scored tonight. What was your? Were you I'm gonna boo Contreras or I'm gonna cheer for Contreras? What camp were you in?
Boo.
Okay, Jeffrey says boo.
Jeff, right away. I was in cheer. I loved the years with Contreras. It was going to be a cheer. What was it? Somebody said the other day it was like 3 claps and then sit down or something. Like it was going to be a woo. Glad to see you're here. Now go strike out 4 times and then have a seat.
Wasn't even there. Nope.
Yeah, I've got to give a shout out. Bleacher Jeff quote tweeted this today, and I can't remember who was responsible for the idea, but someone said we should just bring newspapers to Wrigley and pretend like we're reading the newspaper when Contreras comes up to bat.
Mm-hmm.
And at least like 5 or 6 guys, including Bleacher Jeff out in left field, they got a picture of them reading the newspapers out there.
That's like a high school like gimmick. Like when they do their starting lineup in basketball, everybody would get newspapers. I remember doing that in high school.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
like,
Yeah. I think that's great. For me, it's tough. I was texting my buddies before the game, and we were saying, early on in the game, and we were saying, when we saw the video of Willson in the dugout pregame, like talking about how much Cubs fans meant to him, we all agreed, like, I guess maybe we would cheer for him. And then when he got the first hit and he goes around, like, give it to me, like, and then he hits the double and he's asking for it. No.
That's when you don't give him what he wants. It's like a toddler. You don't give him what they want.
So that's why I think that I don't think I would have done anything. I think the only right answer is to sit there and treat it like he's a non-entity. Not to say I'm not grateful for everything that he did when he was on the Cubs, but I am less than happy with how he's treated Cubs fans in particular.
Yeah.
I have yet to experience a player that goes from one team then to play for the rival team and handle it with any grace.
Dexter Fowler did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fowler definitely did. And I don't think,
so he might be one.
Jason
But-
Hayward from the Cardinals to the Cubs too. I don't remember him saying anything.
He only played
bad
there
or
for
like
like 3 months.
Yeah, but no, he had.
I mean,
season
I'm
right?
still
But
upset that
still.
he had a higher batting average as a Cardinal than he ever did as a Cub.
How about how he's playing as a Dodger this year? Yeah.
Aren't we still paying him?
I'll
We
tell
are
you
paying him this season.
my son's response. I call him in I was watching the game and he was like playing, doing something. I called him and I said, "Hey, Contreras is up to bat." And he walked in, looked at the TV, and just said, "I got better things to do."
Love that. Oh my gosh.
That's good.
And I was like,
Yeah,
"No, like stay and watch." Like he won a World Series ring. We gotta like give him a little bit of respect. I mean, after this at bat, we can boo him all we want, but like just give him his time. Like he was on championship team, but he was like, "No, I got better things."
Well,
I
we're really
would
just
even-
scraping. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would even say, like, don't as Ian says, Contreras might have killed us tonight, but Connor Bedard is coming to Chicago. At least we have that to celebrate. That is true. But I was gonna say, don't ever if you're a Cubs fan and you're listening to this and you're gonna be at a game, I've got tickets for sale tomorrow to tomorrow's game. Hit me up. If you're at a game and Contreras is in for the Cardinals, don't boo him because clearly he fed off of that tonight and scored all 3 of the Cardinals runs. So yeah, I don't have the audio. I didn't have the audio on for his second 2 at bats because we were live here. So I don't know if he was being booed, but I'm guessing he was, and we played right into his hand. So
Tomorrow, Bleacher Jeff, get out there and get the newspapers. That'd be awesome.
I'm going to change my handle to Funeral Pew Jeff. Not Bleacher. Funeral Pew.
Funeral Pew.
I am. We've got to be scraping the bottom of the arm barn because Merriweather's pitching in the 9th. Is he the only one that didn't see action yesterday?
Yeah, probably. That's probably why he's in.
I think he's been decent in his last. Watch me look up the game logs and be totally wrong.
And unfortunately, Alzolay is definitely out for a couple of games.
Yep. Yeah,
He has since April 17th, he's pitched 12 2/3 innings and only given up 1 run and struck. Nope, that's not right. Not 12 2/3. I can't do this math right now, but he's only given up 1 run since April 17th and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 appearances. So he's trending in the right direction. This is something that's like been talked about. Like this bullpen is going to take a second to settle in. And people were blaming Ross early on in the season. And we talked about it last week. It's not Ross's fault that every year he's got different pieces in the bullpen and spring training because there are so many arms that they've thrown in the mix of like, ooh, maybe this guy will stick or maybe this guy will stick. Then we get to the season. It's like, okay, well, we're still trying out some of these arms.
It's like a crazy game of pin the tail on the donkey.
Well,
It totally is.
Ian says that Merriweather is really good in MLB The Show. He used him. So I'm not sure if that translates to real life, but what's his whip?
Does,
what's
right?
his Ian? What's his whip in MLB The Show for you? But yeah, like this series, the Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates all have been struggling. And we continue to say the door is open for the Cubs Central. And we're getting what we want. We're getting the players that will push us to the playoffs. We're getting best 9 on the field. We're getting closer to that. Would we want it sooner? Yes. But at the same time, a lot of these guys are still developing. So I'm trying to like understand, but yeah, we're getting 0.89 is his whip in MLB Show, if you were wondering. Maybe Ian just knows how to use Merriweather better than Merriweather knows how to use Merriweather.
Dang.
Whoa.
Mind blown.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. We have Morel up, we have Mervis. Amaya's up for the time being. Like, let's go. Let's take the next 2, or maybe what I said earlier in Mervis walking this thing off in the 9th. I don't know if he's due up, but maybe that'll happen. But we have a lot to look forward to. We have a lot to be excited about because we have young talent We have guys signed to extensions. We have Bellinger playing ridiculous baseball. So a lot of good things to happen. But yeah, that does it for episode 118. 118? Yeah, 118, 119, something like
We're
that.
very close to celebrating with another cake, I think.
Yeah, really close.
125.
Here we go. Every 25th birthday. Yeah, so a lot to be excited for. So go follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs. Make sure you hit up Jake if you want to go to the game tomorrow. He has tickets. And if you're listening to us tomorrow on the ride, hit him up. He might still have the tickets. But thanks for listening to us. Hopefully Cubs come back and win this tonight. So thanks for listening to the Dingers podcast.
Hey, if you guys were a novelty helmet, what kind of food would be served out of you?
Nachos. I love nachos.
Yeah. Brisket nachos, pulled pork. What are we going here? Chorizo?
Ooh, chorizo. Or no,
pulled pork.
I would go with
The carnitas?
Oh my goodness. Jake, what would you
I feel like I have the answer on the tip of my tongue, and I'm gonna be upset that I can't, because there's an obvious one for me. Oh, puppy chow.
Puppy chow?
Oh,
yeah.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
Mine would be queso and chips.
Queso and chips. All right.
There we go.
I'm torn between a big ass sundae or
Ooh.
big nachos. You know what I mean?
Salted Oreo ice cream novelty helmet from Ian. That's
a good one.
Where is that sold at? That seems like he was like
cream.
Well, he is living in Denver.
Yeah, it's a Denver specialty. Yeah, that's a munchie. That's a munchie snack.
Hitting the bong before you go to the ballpark.
Yeah.
Come to Denver. Awesome. Jeff, I like that you keep on right as soon as I get ready to click end broadcast. You're like,
asking a good question.
That was a good
I love
one.
it.
That was a
I
good
love
one.
it. All right. Thanks for listening to the Dingers podcast.
Good night, John boy.